conducted basic size bayonet charge of 1,000 of the regiment, 2 battalions, against the 149th Chinese Division, which consisted of 10,000 infantrymen. This was a 3-day fight that culminated down to hand-to-hand in a 1,000-man bayonet charge. 1,000 men went in, basically 300 came out. This regiment belongs to us. My great-grandfather, Leoncio Beauchamp, my pedigree is, my great-grandfather was one of the founding members of the regiment in World War I. So it's been my privilege to try and bring recognition to them, and in doing that I had a lot of support and friendships through this time. Mr. Manny Rosales, please stand up.
Manny, please. But let me just say that one thing you didn't say, and I'll say it loud. The 65th Infantry Regiment Honor Task Force was instrumental in achieving the main goal, which was to get the Medal of Honor to Negron, Sergeant Negron, which was given to his daughter in his service. And we brought her to East Harlem. We did a whole thing. It was beautiful. It was unbelievable. And in doing so, we also honored our state senator, Larkin, okay, with honoring him with that museum exhibit that we did, and at East Harlem on 23rd Street, Diagonal Towers. That only happens when people get together and work hard. And we got the medal for him, and we also were instrumental in getting the regiment's medal, the Congressional Medal. Correct?
Yeah.
Gold Medal.
Okay. I like to bring talk about that. Let me bring Manny up.
Manny, come on, man. You're the man.
Manny Rosales and I have been very good dear friends, and he's been a great supporter of the 65th Infantry Regiment. I met him when I was a candidate for Congress for the 17th Congressional District in 2010. You guys may know. And so Manny was very instrumental in being my mentor and guide down in the RNC. I met Michael Steele and such, and so our association goes back to them. Now, yes, the 65th Honor Task Force, okay, as you remember, right, needed a lot of guidance and help through getting the halls of Congress to help us in the context that we needed to try and get the approval for the Congressional Gold Medal, which was recently awarded to the regiment as a whole. Much of what we do is to bring recognition to unsung heroes. Those heroes who are unnamed, many of which we do not know what they did. So when we find out, we honor them and bring attention to them. So there are those who receive medals and decorations. Among those we were able to achieve was the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the highest decoration for valor that the people of the United States can give to a soldier and his family. That occurred and was awarded to Master Sergeant Juan E. Negron during the Korean War. Now, just to give you an idea and how it links into Manny, is that that was a long fight. And much of that fight had to do with bringing recognition to the regiment as a whole. And much of the political maneuvering that needed to take place was that when politicians in the Congress saw that it was a good idea to be associated with the regiment, okay, they didn't know anything about that until what occurred on 1 October of 2013. What occurred in 1 October 2013 was that, as Ruben said, we arranged to bring the Korean War veterans on a bus from the Bronx to see their memorial in Washington, D.C., and also to be honored by the 3rd United States Infantry, the Old Guard, which is the oldest active infantry unit in the United States, is the Presidential Ceremonial Unit, the Honor Guard, of which I was a former member. And once you're a member of the Old Guard, you're always a member of the Old Guard. And so I called up the commanders down there, I told them what I had going on, they liked the idea, and they invited us for a one-on-one presentation by the Old Guard, the same presentation they give to royalty, the crowned heads of Europe, and heads of states. They gave a single performance to the 65th Infantry Regiment. It was all arranged for. They had the United States Army drill team, if any of you ever see that, to perform for them. Now, the significance between the Old Guard and the 65th Infantry is the Old Guard is called the Old Guard because they conducted the first battalion-sized bayonet charge in American military history during the Battle of Chapultepec in Mexico. The 65th Infantry conducted the last battalion-sized bayonet charge. In salute to them, they conducted a reenactment for them of a bayonet charge. So this was all sudden. You can imagine all the coordination that took place. Manny helped us out with much of the ceremonies and things that had to be done down in Washington. They were on the bus on 1 October. Guess what happened? The government decided to shut down. The government said, we're going to close the memorials, and that these veterans were not going to be allowed access to these memorials, even though we had all the permits, right? Okay. That morning, I'm down there. They're on the bus on the way down with Ruben on the bus. They don't know nothing yet. Ruben's calling, hey, I heard this. Don't worry about it. Just get them on the bus, keep them happy. Me and Manny, furious, trying to imagine it, furiously, on the phones. Hey, we got them on the bus. They're on their way. Then we tell you, you don't want to have another bayonet charge.
This guy can't see well either now.
Manny's on the horn calling all of his contacts on the hill. We're doing things, whatever. Manny gets me on Fox News. Remember, you called me up?
Yep.
Manny got me on Fox News that morning. I got on Fox News in my diplomatic manner. And I expressed to them our deeply concerned, abiding concern, and assured them that under no circumstances will we not violate the law, but we will be placing a wreath at our memorial, right?
Right.
The bus shows up. I'm trying to put this together for you. Like stories? The bus shows up. I don't sweat much, but I was sweating. Manny is by my side. There's a barrier. Remember the barriers?
Yes.
There's a barrier in front of the Korean War Memorial. The bus shows up. Ruben's on the bus saying these guys want to get off the bus, see the memorial. I'm telling them, just hold on a minute. Me and Manny and Colonel Fisher. Remember Colonel Fisher? Me and Manny and Colonel Fisher are confronted by the lieutenant in charge of the Park Police of Washington, D.C. At which time he communicates to us quite clearly, and to Manny, that if we decide to pass by that barrier, we will be in violation of the law and will be arrested. Did he not? He made that very clear. He's a lot better at this than I am. But he engaged the man in a very diplomatic manner. Anyway, at the conclusion of which the lieutenant looked over at the bus, to which point I said, well, do you really want to have the police to come arrest 80-year-old veterans coming off the bus, right, to place a wreath? If looks could kill, I would have been dead on the spot. This guy wanted to kill me, right? He was so mad. At this point, he looked the other way like there was a traffic infraction, and he walked away from us. Manny looked at me, I looked at him, I gave him the signal, off the bus they came, and that barrier, it was just unguarded now. So we wanted to make sure that nothing happened to that barrier, right? So then Manny and I just took one end of the barrier and we just put it in a safe and secure location. You understand? So that way, but now it was open. So, and we went and we did our ceremony. Manny Rosales, on behalf of all the veterans of the 65th Infantry Regiment of Puerto Rico, sir. On October 1st, 2013, Mr. Manny Rosales distinguished himself against overwhelming odds in an act of ethical defiance during the government shutdown of the Korean War Veterans Memorial, Washington, D.C. On this day, it was Mr. Rosales that procured the most prestigious members of the political and military community in Washington, D.C. to attend a salute to the 65th Infantry Regiment of Puerto Rico by the 3rd U.S. Infantry, the Old Guard at Fort Myer. He arranged for the media to cover the historic event, whereby the Old Guard, which conducted the first regiment-sized bayonet charge in U.S. military history, would honor survivors of the last battalion-sized bayonet charge conducted by the 65th Infantry Regiment of Puerto Rico and Korea in 1951. Upon learning of the closing of the memorial and rescinded permits, Mr. Rosales sprang into action, putting his professional prestige on the line without concern for himself, to ensure that these octogenarian Korean War combat veterans would accomplish their mission. By bold instances of personal diplomacy, motivational speech, and friendly persuasion, he helped negotiate the bypassing of all artificial obstructions, physical and political, through a seamless transition from the impossible to the doable. Mr. Rosales' unbending dedication to all of our veterans, solemn devotion to all who fell, and implacable defense of veterans' rights over the span of his career continue to reflect great credit upon himself, the veterans community, and the U.S. Army, given under my hand, 13 November 2013, Anthony Mele, Ruben Estrada, Radames Carlos.